Hi, I'm Paul Arthur. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. Prime Minister Mark Carney holds his first press conference since his election victory and announces that King Charles will be visiting Ottawa for the throne speech. An Alberta MP will be giving up his seat to allow Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to run in a by-election to regain a seat in Parliament. The Lethbridge Hurricanes did their end-of-season locker room clean-out today. We talk with Coach Peters and the players.
Your nation. Your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News.
Thanks for joining us. Newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet with U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. this Tuesday. The two are expected to discuss Trump's trade war with Canada, and the talks could set the stage for negotiations on a new trade and security pact with the U.S. Carney took questions from reporters in Ottawa today for the first time since securing a minority government in his first election on Monday. He also announced that his cabinet will be sworn in on the week of May 12th.
We will begin to set out that new path for Canada with a new cabinet to be sworn in on the week of the 12th of May and the recall of Parliament on May 26th. We will have the privilege of welcoming His Majesty King Charles III, who will deliver Canada's speech from the throne on May 27th. Her Majesty the Queen will join this visit. To the immediate priorities of my government, beginning with our relationship with the United States. As I've stressed repeatedly, our old relationship, based on steadily increasing integration, is over. The questions now are how our nations will cooperate in the future and where we in Canada will move on.
Carney says he invited the King to read the throne speech as it underscores Canadian sovereignty in the face of U.S. President Donald Trump's talk of annexation. Also, when asked by reporters, Carney said that he will not seek a formal agreement with the NDP to avoid a snap election. An Alberta MP has agreed to step aside to allow Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to run in a by-election. Damien Couric says he's temporarily stepping aside as MP for the Battle River-Crowfoot riding. Couric will first need to be sworn in before he resigns his seat. The Battle River-Crowfoot riding is in eastern Alberta and includes the city of Camrose, as well as the towns of Stettler, Drumheller, Hanna, Three Hills, Toefield, Viking, and Wainwright. Prime Minister Carney has said he would call a by-election as soon as possible if the Conservatives had a member resign their seat so that Poilievre could run again. Alberta's United Conservative government says it's in the final stages of a revamp of the province's healthcare system. Health Minister Adriana LaGrange says Bill 55 will dismantle the provincial health authority, Alberta Health Services, reducing it to a hospital services provider and putting 4 new agencies in charge.
Public health will be moved out of Alberta Health Services, strengthening public health's role in protecting the well-being of all Albertans and allowing AHS to focus on delivering acute care services. Primary Care Alberta will deliver public health prevention and wellness programs aimed at empowering Albertans to reduce health risks. This includes frontline public health services such as communicable disease control, immunizations, newborn screening, and health promotion. Key functions like policy development and public health inspections and surveillance will transition to Alberta Health, as will the province's medical officers of health. There will be no disruption to public health functions and activities while this work is underway, and Albertans will continue to access public health services as they always have.
The proposed legislation would shuffle workers represented by 5 different unions from AHS to a different agency. Opposition NDP health critic Sarah Hoffman says it's another example of the minister consolidating control in her office, and it appears unions were not consulted in the process. The Congress of Aboriginal Peoples is adding its voice to other Indigenous groups who are calling for an immediate halt to the planned auction of cultural and sacred items currently held by the Hudson's Bay Company. HBC's assets hit the sales block after the company filed for creditor protection earlier this year. The Congress calls the planned auction of more than 4,400 artifacts and artworks deeply troubling. It says the items are not commercial goods to be bought and sold. They are pieces of Indigenous identity, history, and living heritage. The Congress is urging the courts, the Government of Canada, and the Hudson's Bay Company to immediately suspend any auction plans and begin a process of engagement with all affected Indigenous groups, including those represented by CAP. Canada's capital is among the communities affected by a flood warning on the lower Ottawa River. The Rideau Valley Conservation Authority says recent rainfall and snowmelt have seen water levels and flows steadily rise in the Ottawa River. And more rain and meltwater are forecasted in the coming days. High water levels are expected to last through Monday. BC Premier David Eby says today's provincial day of mourning for the victims of the deadly attack at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival in Vancouver gives residents a chance to show their solidarity with the Filipino community. 11 people were killed and several others injured last Saturday after an SUV sped through a crowded street at the event. The 30-year-old suspect in the case is due to appear in provincial court today to make an application. Adam Kai G. Low faces 8 charges of second-degree murder, and police have said more charges are forthcoming. 5 years later, and the fallout from COVID lockdowns continues to unfold. The Supreme Court of Canada has refused to hear the case of an Ontario doctor challenging the College of Physicians and Surgeons. In 2020, Dr. Kulvinder Kaur Gill wrote a Twitter commentary about what she felt were harmful governmental COVID policies. As required, the doctor also provided evidence to support her position. However, the college responded with what are called orders for cautions in person. While these cautions aren't sanctions, her lawyer, Lisa Bildy, says it does have an impact.
In Dr. Gill's case, they even sent notices of these orders all over the continent to various hospitals and state boards and so on. So, I mean, technically, it's not a disciplinary outcome for her. It won't affect her license in any way, but it certainly has a public repercussion. And of course, the other aspect of it is that it casts a chilling effect on other professionals because, you know, your reputation is important as a professional. You've worked hard all your life to have a certain respectability in your profession, and then now you're worried that if you excuse me, if you say something that doesn't kind of align with what you're allowed to think and say, you're going to find yourself up before your regulatory body, slapping you on the wrist at best, or maybe even, you know, something more draconian. So it can't help but have a chilling effect on professionals. And when we're talking about medical professionals and scientists, you know, it's very dangerous to society to curtail what's essential to scientific and medical understanding.
Bildy says the Ontario Court of Appeal also denied Dr. Gill's request for leave to appeal last October. So this decision by the Supreme Court leaves her without any further legal options. The City of Lethbridge is now enforcing a new animal care and control bylaw. The new bylaw replaces rules that hadn't been changed in decades and streamlines all animal-related regulations into one modern, accessible document. Included in the changes, residents are now limited to a maximum of 6 cats. The voluntary cat licensing initiative is continuing. A low-cost microchipping program for cats and dogs is coming later this year to help bring lost pets home. Dog owners can now use their own tags as long as they show the city license number. And a permit process is now in place to support a potential urban hen pilot program, pending approval of that program. May is Sexual Violence Awareness Month. According to the Association of Alberta Sexual Assault Services, almost 1.8 million Albertans have experienced some form of sexual violence in their lifetime. Here in Lethbridge, Chinook Sexual Assault Centre continues doing its work to avoid violence and support survivors, from crisis to therapy. Chinook Sexual Assault Centre CEO Christine Cassie says their programs are growing, and to handle that growth, they're holding an event next week.
And our programs have really grown. So when we started, we had maybe 200 crisis calls a year. We're now hitting about 750 crisis calls a year. Right now, we're working on a restorative justice model that is just to do with sexual assault survivors, adult sexual assault survivors. So the art show is called Impact Unveiled: Beyond the Silence. It's going to be happening at the Yates Memorial Theatre on the upper level there. That's going to run from May until September. We have Chrome Harvest that's going to be doing a concert at the Owl later in May as well, which is a fundraiser for our agency. We have a 50-50 going on, and pretty soon we're going to launch another special raffle. It's a way for us to engage with communities so that they can learn more about it, because we know if we learn more about it and we talk about it, we can do more about it.
As part of Budget 2025, we were able to increase funding for sexual assault centers, as well as that there is women's shelters as well throughout the entire province. And my ministry also supports domestic violence prevention programs as well, of almost $9 million per year, as well as we have many programs through our family resource networks that help families on the preventative side to receive additional support if they require.
Turton says the ministry will finalize a comprehensive 10-year strategy to end gender-based violence that will guide long-term province-wide action to address these underreported crimes. Actor-comedian Russell Brand arrived at a London court on Friday to face charges of rape and sexual assault involving 4 women. The 49-year-old was swarmed by photographers as he arrived at Westminster Magistrates Court for his first hearing since being charged last month. It's alleged the incidents occurred over a 20-year span. Brand did not enter a plea and was granted bail, which allows him to return to Florida, where he now lives with his wife and children. Brand has been very public about his conversion to Christianity about a year ago and has maintained his innocence. Back here at home, tomorrow is Highway Cleanup Day across the province. Between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., volunteers wearing bright safety vests will be collecting trash along Alberta highways to raise funds for community organizations. Drivers are reminded to slow down, obey signs, watch for pedestrians, and use caution when passing cleanup crews. Last year, volunteers from 728 organizations cleaned up roughly 12,000 kilometers of Alberta roads. With the government offering $100 for every kilometer cleaned, the groups raised about $1.2 million. After being swept by the Medicine Hat Tigers in the 3rd round of the playoffs, members of the Lethbridge Hurricanes are looking back at the season with a sense of success. Players Noah Chadwick, Braden Edwards, and Logan McCutcheon have now aged out from the Western Hockey League and will be moving on to new opportunities. As the Canes front office looks ahead to the offseason in order to shuffle the roster around, the players are reflecting on the connections that they had within the locker room and the city of Lethbridge.
Yeah, I thought it was a great year. I think that we had an unbelievable group in there, and I loved getting to know the new guys kind of as they came in, and made some friendships that'll last a lifetime. Obviously, it didn't end up the way we wanted it to, but I think I'm extremely proud of every guy in that room for the effort that we put in over the year, and very, very proud to be teammates with them.
Tremendous amount of respect for Bill and our coaching staff. They were fantastic for us, and I personally learned a lot from them, and I'm really grateful to have had Bill the last couple of years as our head coach, and I think that could be said from everyone in the room for sure.
Yeah, I think it's been a really good season. I think personally, I was really happy with how it went, and then from a team standpoint, it's the best group of guys I've been a part of, and obviously we had a really good success. We beat a really, really strong team in Calgary, so I was really proud of the team for doing that. Obviously we came up a little short, but nothing to be mad about. We had a good season, and we're happy about it. The city as a whole, they're really supportive. The fans are awesome here. I don't know if there's really any place like it in the WHL.
You're going 1,000 mile an hour, and all of a sudden you hit a wall and it's over. So some good things in the season for sure. Obviously a couple tough playoff rounds, and a lot of growth individually, collectively for the team. So in good shape moving forward. But now the work is more upstairs, and in the scouting department there'll be a U.S. priority draft coming. There'll be the Western League draft, the Bantam draft coming. There will be lots coming down the pipe with the CHL, NCAA, that all getting settled out and everything else. So this organization is going to work hard, and they're going to do everything they can to put the best product on the ice possible.
All right. The Lethbridge and District Exhibition is hosting Geek Fest this weekend. A showcase of small businesses and vendors who share elements of pop culture, gaming, and new technologies. Visitors can check out new innovations and discover more features involved in tabletop games, virtual reality, and AI. The event is in its second year, run by Domesticated Divas Events, who say the event gives people an opportunity to discover all things geeky.
We have a very geeky, nerdy group in Lethbridge, people who are big onto D&D, gaming, and all of that sort of thing. A lot of these businesses are home-based businesses, and they don't get as much exposure because of that as you would get with some of our storefronts that are in Lethbridge that a lot of people are familiar with. So this gives them a chance to showcase what their talents are, what they have to offer, and to give people more selection of different things that they can get. And we've seen a wonderful response from the public, and we look forward to continuing to grow for that. So we really wanted to hit that niche market for our Lethbridge residents.
The event will run for one more day on Saturday from 9 to 5. The nation of Singapore is going to the polls for their general election on Saturday. Singapore is somewhat of an unusual democracy in that the same party has been ruling for decades. Opposition parties are hopeful that will change, although it will certainly be a steep uphill climb.
Singaporeans will vote Saturday in a general election that is set to return to power the city-state's long-ruling party. It will be the first key test for Prime Minister Lawrence Wong since he took power last year. The People's Action Party has governed Singapore since 1959, overseeing its transformation from a former colonial backwater into one of the world's richest nations. It is expected to win comfortably, but the opposition has made gains in previous elections, amid unhappiness over tight government control and rising cost of living. The PAP's share of popular vote dipped to 61% in 2020 from 70% in 2015. Wong has appealed for a strong mandate to steer Singapore through a possible recession following US tariff hikes. A strong performance would boost his leadership. The outcome will also determine whether Singapore's one-party dominance could endure over the next decade.
Singapore consistently ranks as one of the most expensive places in the world to live in, and the rising costs have been one of the biggest concerns for young people. Tim Freed has been bitten by poisonous snakes hundreds of times, usually on purpose. For the last 18 years, the Wisconsin man has been building up his immunity to snake venom, initially injecting himself with small doses of snake venom and slowly increasing the amount to build his tolerance. Then he started to let snakes actually bite him. Freed is now working with scientists who are attempting to use his blood to create a universal anti-venom for humans.
Black mamba. I picked the most dangerous ones in the world: black mambas, taipans, cobras, kraits, coral snakes, rattlesnakes. I take it out and I basically let it bite my arm. 2 bites, nice. And the reason I do that is for shock value, to bring awareness for snake bite. I wasn't looking to be a YouTube star or anything like that, or, it's all about the science for me, 100%. And when I was doing it, I sat back after about a year and just realized that people die from snake bite, and I wasn't dying. So at that point, I decided I have to reach out to every scientist on the planet.
So Tim basically created a procedure that allowed broad recognition of many, many different toxins, and that recognition allowed him to be protected from snake bites. And what we're hoping to do is take that same protection, but not have to have everyone undergo 18 years of immunization and snake bites ultimately, but instead isolate and identify the best antibodies, or we can combine with small molecules to create anti-venom from Tim's amazing blood.
I became the horse. I took the horse out of the picture, and that's how they make anti-venom in horses. So I used myself, and I had no anti-venom. I worked with no doctors. I just had so much confidence in what I was doing, so I didn't want to back up. And if I failed and I died, then I died. I mean, it was that simple. It became a lifestyle, actually.
It shows what the human immune system can do. We have antibodies produced in a human that might save other humans moving forwards in terms of a universal antivenom.
It's nice to be part of something that changes medical history, herpetology, immunology, and science.
The antivenom has only been tested in mice, and researchers say they are still years away from human trials. By the way, Tim Free does not recommend that anyone else should imitate him. He has had some missteps along the way, including having to cut off part of his finger after a particularly bad snake bite. Okay, more hot weather on the way with a nice interruption of rain, and then, yep, things will heat up again. Weather details coming right up.
Our 7-day forecast has us with a high of 26 with sunny skies today. Tomorrow has a high of 28 alongside sunny skies. Sunday will have a high of 14 with cloudy skies. Next week's Monday will have a high of 16 with sunny skies. Tuesday will share sunny skies as well with a high of 19, and Wednesday will have a high of 28 with sunny skies. Finishing off the 7-day forecast with Thursday, we have a high of 28 with partly cloudy skies. Today's almanac has us with an average high of 16 for this time of year with an average low of 2. The record high on this day was set back in 1940 and 1957 with a 27. The record low was set back in 1954 with minus 11. The sun rose at 6:07 a.m. today and set at 8:50 p.m. Moving on to our national forecast, Vancouver and Victoria share highs of 14, but Vancouver will get some showers, with Victoria getting some partly cloudy skies. Edmonton will have sunny skies and a high of 28, and Calgary will have a high of 27 alongside sunny skies. The rest of the prairies have Saskatoon with a high of 28, Regina a high of 26, and Winnipeg a high of 25. All cities share sunny skies. Central Canada will get some showers, with Toronto getting a high of 13 in showers, and Ottawa will get a high of 15 with a chance of showers. Montreal will get a high of 14 with partly cloudy skies. Our east coast has Fredericton with a high of 22 and partly cloudy skies, Halifax has a high of 19, Charlottetown a high of 18, and St. John's will have a high of 9. All cities have partly cloudy skies.
Imperial Oil says its profits are up, posting earnings of nearly $1.3 billion for the first quarter. The company says the profit amounted to $2.52 per diluted share, up from $2.23 a year earlier. Imperial says upstream production in the quarter averaged 418,000 gross oil equivalent barrels per day, down from the previous high of 421,000 last year. Chief Executive Brad Corson says Imperial's upstream business continues to benefit from improved egress and narrower heavy oil differentials, while downstream profitability continues to reflect the structural advantages brought on by the Canadian market. Magna International says first quarter profits rose compared with a year ago, even as sales decreased. The Canadian auto parts company says its profit attributable to the company was $146 million US, compared with $9 million reported during the same period a year ago. Sales for the quarter totaled $10.1 billion, down from a year earlier. Magna says it now expects total sales between $40 billion and $41.6 billion throughout 2025, releasing a revised outlook amid trade uncertainty. Now, here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was up 235 basis points to 25,031. The Dow was up 564 points to 41,317. The S&P 500 was up 82 points to 5,686, and the Nasdaq was up 266 points to 17,977. West Texas Intermediate oil was down 86 cents to 58.38 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 18 cents to 3.66 US. Gold was up 1.99 to 32.39.29 US an ounce, and silver was down 43 cents to $32 even US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.90 per bushel, barley is at $6.97, canola is at $15.85, and corn is at $8.18 per bushel. Live cattle June contract was up $1.45 to $2.11.10. Feeder cattle May contract was up 172 to 294.95, and lean hogs May contract was up 55 cents to 92.95. And the Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours and currently sits at 72.40 US.
Recapping one of our top stories, Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet with U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. this Tuesday. Carney also announced that King Charles will be visiting Ottawa at the end of May to read the throne speech in Parliament. And former Liberal MP Dan McTeague isn't a big fan of Prime Minister Carney's environmental policies. He shares some strong post-election opinions. That interview is coming right up. When you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our stories and interviews. Canada now has a fourth straight Liberal government, although it's a minority mandate with a new Prime Minister, Mark Carney. So what does that mean for Canada's future? We're joined by Dan McTeague. Dan served as a Liberal MP for 18 years in Ontario. He's now the President of Canadians for Affordable Energy. Many of you use Gas Wizard to check out your local gas prices. That's part of Dan's company as well. So good to have you with us, Dan.
Always a pleasure to be here, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, lots to talk about, of course. Wow. Were you surprised by the election results at all? Were you expecting something closer or further apart?
Well, I think it was very close in terms of numbers, a lot closer than pollsters had suggested. But it's the breakdown. This time it wasn't as efficient for the Liberals as it has been in the past. And though they wound up with 168, 169, they fell short of that majority that many people thought was a slam dunk. And the Conservatives did extraordinarily well, despite everything, and having the Praetorian Guard against them. And by that, the media, the pollsters, Donald Trump, Doug Ford here in Ontario, all coming out to really whack them. I mean, the reality is that they held up pretty damn good, considering everything that had been pitted against them. And of course, we now know that. Where we began back in February with the Liberal leadership, when everything seemed to go away, and Mark Carney was given the coronation, and Canadians seem to, at least here in Eastern Canada, seem to have done the same, with the exception of Lower Mainland BC. We're going to resume exactly where we left off in February, and it's a very grim future.
So you're not thinking, you're not buying the, I guess the mantra you're hearing. This has changed now. You're saying, yeah, it's going to kind of continue the way it has over the last 10 years. Sounds like. Well, let me ask you this, I guess, first before we get into some of that. What did the Liberals do right? Like, I mean, how did they get this win? Was it the Trump, orange hair bad man guy?
Yeah, I think the Conservatives have to be prepared for the Liberals going forward. Can always, deceive Canadians, and can always get gullible types to go along with COVID in 2021, bad Orange Man bad south of the border in 2025. I'm sure they'll probably find another boogeyman out there for the next election. That's if the election is on their terms and they can determine when that's going to happen. And they have another Jagmeet Singh to help them along to ensure that they have all the things going against them. But I suspect they're running out of options. One, because I think for a lot of people, especially here in Eastern Canada, the tough times are here. And you don't take my word for it. A Fitch rating agency saying they're about to downgrade our credit. That should send a signal to every Canadian who thought that this is all about Donald Trump. No, it's about bad economic policy here in Canada, and we're about to double down on it.
Yeah, and now that brings up another interesting question as well. What did the Conservatives do wrong? Of course, Poilievre being criticized by other Conservatives that hey, you missed it, and of course he stuck to his gun, saying this is about our economy, it's about jobs, affordable homes, all these kinds of things, right? But rather than focusing on the tariffs and Trump more as Carney did, did he drop the ball there?
I don't think he dropped the ball. I think he said what he had to say, and he pushed back on what was the Praetorian Guard of people with vested interests. Look, when you have media, and I'm not, picking anybody out or singling out anyone in particular, paid by the government to promote the government's approach. The past 10 years, I've been fighting affordability. It is now the most important issue in Canada. But you had everybody falling, all foursquare for the net zero and all of its damage. And I'm not just talking, of course, about carbon taxes, which Liberals finally realized they had to get rid of temporarily because it's coming back in the form of an industrial carbon tax. And anybody who thought that was gone should think again. I think there's other factors here that are going to be extraordinarily aggravating for Canadians as they start to unpackage what's happened. We have an EV mandate in Canada. We have EV building, battery building, which is going bankrupt. It's going insolvent. These are white elephants, and the cost of keeping those, maintaining those, very costly, very damaging policies. Part of net zero is now to see China hit back and hit our canola farmers out west, and seafood farmers, seafood producers in eastern Canada. Others. So no, I don't see this. I don't see much reprieve. There's not much more left in the bag for the Liberals to pull out and to try to bamboozle people into this idea that everything's just fine. Now they face the harsh reality of what some of them voted for, and a lot of them aren't prepared for the pain.
Yeah, I wonder how long it'll take for that to kind of reality to settle in, when the bills pile up, right? So, yeah, yeah, right. There you go. Yes.
They're funding the taxes. If they haven't filed them already, then they're going to start to pay interest, and it'll be big.
Yeah, well, again, there were some tax cuts, from the Liberals here. Are they enough to actually make a difference? Time will tell, I guess. But let me ask you this: I think it's unlikely, but is there going to be any internal pressure coming from the Conservative Party to replace Poilievre? Right? I mean, could be. If not, what are his options on a by-election?
Well, I look at this a little differently. Those who have ambitions to take him out and are going to have to come up with someone who's just as strong, just as committed, just as determined, and is willing to face the same sleight of hand that the Liberals seem to be able to produce. And I know a lot about that party. I served for 40, 45 years. Half of that as a member of parliament, some of that even as a privy councillor, minister. But the reality, I think, is that's going to come forth is, are you prepared to make a 4-year sacrifice in order to do that? Because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of abandonment of your family, of your interests. It takes a certain type of individual to do that, and I think the interlopers may have, especially, and I say, with all due regards, respect, Doug Ford played his hand. If that was his intention, he completely muffed it up, because it's now he's got a fish or cut bait. Does he want to spend 4 years as premier, or does he want to spend 4 years in opposition?
All right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Doug Ford, some people say he's got ambitions to become prime minister, so who knows where that'll go. But were you surprised at all by Poilievre's, pretty much a major loss? I think it was like 4,000 votes, something like that, in his home riding. He's been there since, 2004 or something like that? What? What? So how did that happen?
Well, unless people are brain dead in Carleton, where the case stands for quality. I'd like to say that Carleton, where the K stands for quality. A lot of federal civil servants, a lot of grifters there, a lot of mooching, a lot of people who have need government money. If you don't have a productive side of the economy is faltering. We don't have Alberta producing oil and gas and expanding so that they can then send the money to Ottawa so they can spend on the civil servants. You're going to have a tough time going ahead. But I guess that's more my overall comment that I would make as any who's had some political experience. My bigger concern: how did 91 people wind up on a ballot sheet? Yeah. Second of all, how do you get nearly 100% turnout? There's a lot to be said about, we can go and say he shouldn't have lost. Here's why. And I think there's a lot of suspicion here, but there's also, it gives ground and rise to the idea that there is certainly a conspiracy in Canada to be able to do certain things. We've seen electoral interference. It's not to be played with. It's not to be joked about. And one wonders if that's exactly what happened here. I don't know, but I'm not closing the door to any of that.
Okay, well, I'm sure somebody will investigate it. Well, maybe not, but we'll see. All right, Jagmeet Singh, we touched on him earlier. Okay, he's resigned. He will, I guess, whenever they find an interim leader here. Where did he drop the ball? What do the NDP need to do differently? Who's going to lead it? Can they bounce back, or are we basically a two-party nation now?
I think we're heading to a two-party nation. I don't think the NDP is relevant at all. Probably hasn't been since 2015. When the Liberals outflanked them and moved further to the left on some of the major issues. They're no longer a party of Labour. We know the Conservatives federally, provincially have picked up the hardworking union support across this country. So if we're dealing with, civil service, public sector unions, that may be their only hope, but that actually went to the Liberals. So there's not much left for the NDP. They played the game. and they lost. They played poker and propped up the Liberals, and as a result, more than the Liberals weren't punished. Ostensibly, it was the NDP, who, in many cases, most of their candidates didn't just wind up going from, coming in second. Many of them went up in third, including Jagmeet Singh. So, you you mess with the bull, you get the horn. I think the NDP's realized it's game over for the NDP since its formation in 1961.
Yeah, it would take somebody really, really dynamic and strong to turn things around there, and maybe some policy changes, but all right. Well,
Liberals,
go ahead.
Liberals will screw them up first.
Well, we have a new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, some happy people and some not so happy campers. So he's saying unity is a priority. Man, we've got a lot of this going on. Any thoughts on, realistically, can that happen? Can he bring some sort of unity? What would he have to do to do that?
Well, he'd have to shed, his wolf in sheep's clothing. This is a man who has very much been a part of the international effort, global effort, WEF, or whether it's the UN's representative on pushing things like GFANs around the world, getting financial institutions not to invest money in oil and gas, which the world cannot survive without. Certainly, Canada economically cannot survive without. This is an individual who has, swallowed the whole idea of the 15-minute cities and made it very clear that he wants to continue with some form of carbon tax. This is a fellow who obviously has no trouble with EV mandates. This is an individual who is really the prince of net zero, and whether we like it, he is hardwired for this kind of policy, which is extraordinarily, and I would say foursquare. Aimed at undermining the Canadian economy. And I don't just mean the West. I think even here in Ontario, we're now starting to realize, Paul, you and I talked about the failure of so many of these electric vehicle plants that we've put so much money in and thought there'd be a great future for them. I'm not here to be down on new technologies, but when you're proposing things that don't work in Canada, including electrification, which would cost us trillions of dollars. When you're looking at $62 billion in national deficits and accumulation of debt, which is near $3 trillion between the federal and provincial governments, we have a spending problem, and we also have a growth problem in this country, being the lowest, GDP per capita of the OECD. And now, of course, the report by the PCO. By the way, I'm Dan McTeague, PC, Honorable Dan McTeague, PC, Privy Councillor. I know what the Privy Council has written. And that document that was released that says Canada is facing the possibility of collapse by 2040. I hope that's not the case, but if it's going to happen, it's going to happen a lot sooner than 2040. And I think we have, it's going to take more than Mark Carney and his vision of the things that have been very detrimental to the country to get us. We've gone in the wrong direction here, and at the worst possible time, my view, unless he's changed himself 180%, I don't see that happening. The worst possible guy to elect at the worst possible time.
Yeah, it was that particular, I think, Horizons report, again, from the Privy Council, essentially, right? I mean, this is not, I think a lot of people think, okay, this is a bunch of conservatives who wrote this. Yeah. But no, this is a mixture. There's different party representatives on the Privy Council. I mean, these are not dumb people. No. They know their stuff. So, I mean, should we be taking this report seriously?
Very seriously. Anything from the PCO, you always take seriously. It's the arm of the federal government. Although it's maybe a study and advice, it's the stuff that ministers are given to read. They're required to read this stuff as a possibility, as a potential. We don't want it to happen, and it's not un-Canadian to point it out and say we dismiss these things out of hand. We've fallen a long way in the past 10 years, like it or not, on almost every front. Whether people call that broken or they call that just fear mongering. The reality is that no one in this country feels that the way things are today are as good as they were 10 years ago. And so take the partisanship out of this. The PCO is not a partisan body. Yep. For them to have such a document, for that document to have been released by whoever released it, I think is a take note moment. It's a stand up moment. And I think we need to understand we're in an awful lot of trouble in this country. And if we go down the same road we've been on for the past 10 years, which the Liberals represent, continuity of bad policy, well, it'll take more than just Orange Man bad south of the border to take advantage of our weakness when we've weakened ourselves.
Yeah, words, I mean, in one sense matter, but when it comes down to this particular, economic issue, it's going to take more than words. It's going to take some change in policy here to attract investment to Canada again. Energy superpower, we're hearing that from our Prime Minister. But, what's it going to take to get there? Obviously, some things need to change to create an environment for people to come say, yes, we want to buy your oil and your gas and so forth. Pipeline might be really, really helpful. Is that going to happen? Considering the direction we're headed in right now, and doesn't look like it's likely to change, the EV mandate by 2035, all new vehicles must be EVs. Really? That's 10 years away. Come on.
Yeah. Well, my 12-year-old vehicle that I'm driving right now is going to be around another 20 years by the looks of it. Get a good mechanic, and Canada could look a whole lot more like, I don't know, Cuba, with older vehicles driving around as people can't afford, nor do they want to drive something that's inefficient. Let me say something about pipelines. The Liberals try to do what they did to the carbon tax, realizing after 8 years of pushing this down our throats and forcing us to pay a lot more and having the effect of driving up food prices and everything else, Liberals actually believe that by building more pipelines, you can get more oil and gas to the market. Not if you have an emissions cap. They are absolutely committed to an emissions cap. So you're going to build pipelines if you can get them through with nothing in them, with a 1/3 reduction. This doesn't make sense. And the Liberals are going to have to deal with this contradiction of policy that they have been advocating. And Mark Carney is really the king of this stuff. I called him a prince earlier, but he is really the king of promoting the net zero policies on strangulating the oil and gas sector, which might be nice if you're trendy and you hate the industry and you're living in a bubble. But if you're a Canadian politician or you're looking at the treasury or you're looking at the finances of the country, you kill the oil industry and the gas industry in this country, you might as well say goodbye to the Federation because there won't be any money to put around. When $20 to $30 billion, 12% of our GDP depends on this, it's we're playing with fire.
Yeah, this is a reality. I mean, if you can't buy a home, if you can't find a job, people are going to get upset pretty quick here. So we'll see what happens here. Real briefly, any thoughts again on how the Conservatives can become dance partners with the Bloc? How long do you think the minority government will last, and what'll bring it down potentially?
Well, I think it's no more than 2 years, and I think Conservatives should stick to their knitting, stick to their programs, stick to their agenda. The economy is falling to pieces, and even those who were just, basically dissuaded from voting Conservative may have second thoughts in the not too distant future.
All right. Thanks so much for your time, Dan. Always good chatting with you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me, Paul.
Every year, Canadians lose millions of dollars to scammers. Why and how does this happen, and what can we do to avoid getting caught in a scam? Joining me now to talk about this is Odetta Durofte. She's the Manager of Community Outreach and Education with the Alberta and East Kootenay branch of the Better Business Bureau. Good to have you with us, Odetta.
Thank you for having me this morning.
So first of all, can you explain to our viewers what the BBB is all about, and how would you typically be of assistance to a Lethbridge business person, for example?
Yeah, so the Better Business Bureau is a nonprofit organization who strives to create trust between consumers and businesses. We've been serving Alberta, including the Lethbridge area, for over 70 years. We have a website, bbb.org, where we provide with business listings for free for consumers to check them out. So we invite you to visit our website and find a reputable and trustworthy business there.
And every year, the Better Business Bureau of Canada comes out with a scam tracker risk report and a top 10 list of fraudulent scams that are ripping off Canadians. Can you explain the criteria used to rank the risk index?
Yeah, so the Better Business Bureau, as you mentioned, we have this amazing risk report. It's called the Scam Tracker Risk Index Report, which we've been publishing every year since 2016. And we receive a number of reports each year. Last year, in 2024, we received more than 81,000 reports. And so we use that data to analyze, to look at what are the most common scams that are being perpetrated. who is more at risk. And we also look at the financial and non-financial losses as well. So this is a tri-dimensional process. Then we look at the exposure, we look at the susceptibility, and we look at the losses. And then we learn from this, and then we can further educate consumers and businesses on some of the red flags and how to prevent from falling a victim to them.
Cryptocurrency and investment scams were at the top of the list. So what makes these so attractive, and what do we need to be on the lookout for?
So the adage, don't invest something that you can't afford to lose, it applies here. But what we are really talking about here is investment in general and using cryptocurrency as a form of investment in particular inherently is high risk. So we are talking about, though, criminal professional crime organizations who will make a connection with you via one of the social media platforms, be it a dating website or an investment forum, and they will offer you an opportunity. So they're going to be in connection with you. They're going to work on gaining your trust. And once the trust is established, they're going to come up with the amazing investment opportunity that they want you to be a part of. And it usually starts low. So you are asked to invest very small amount of money. They may even show you a website where you can track that money. And then so you are giving them that trust and you continuing to invest more and more. And at a point when you are no longer comfortable with this investment and you want to put a stop to it, but then you are seeing yourself in a situation when they're not letting you. They come up with excuses for why you cannot take your return out of this investment. They may say things such as you need to pay other fees and taxes on top of that. And for whatever scenario they have, the idea is, the bottom line is, you are trapped in that. But we encourage everyone that at any point in time, when you are seeing the red flags of an investment scam, don't be afraid to move back. So to stop, disengage, stop connections, stop communications, and go reach out to your financial institution, to your bank, go to your local police, and talk with someone with your family or your friends, with your network. Talk about it, as you are not alone. This happens more often than we realize.
Now, employment scams were number 2 on the list. Can you explain how that one works?
Well, employment scam is definitely second most riskiest scam in Canada for the second year in a row. And so the way this works, there's a few different variables, but the most common scenario is we are seeing in our reports is that the scammer, the fraudster, will set up a fake website where they are either posing job openings, or they will just connect with you via social media messaging, or they'll send you a text message and they'll say they have this great offer for you. Or they may say they found your resume on one of the job boards. And then so from there, really, things start to move really quickly. They may jump ahead and send you an offer that just looks too good to be true, with all the attractive deals, high salary, work from home, flexible hours. So they're very attractive. And they may send you, they'll say, there's a link for you to apply. This is the only way we accept applications, through this link. So what they're really looking for is your information. They want your legal name. They want your date of birth. They want your SIN number. So if we think about it, employment scams can be or can have ties to identity theft type scams. So it's very important to stop and think, research the company, make sure you are dealing with a legitimate company, make sure the posting exists, check out their social media pages, look up reviews on the company, on the position as well, to compare everything. We just need to always be cautious.
And what about romance or relationship scams? What are some warning signs that we should be aware of?
Well, the romance or the relationship type of scam really has close ties to the investment or the cryptocurrency type of scams. And it does happen very similar to the investment scam. So the same scenario, perhaps you're dating on a website, on a public website, and then there's somebody who shows up, they're presenting themselves as the best fit, or they have all the qualities, they match with what you are looking for within your profile. And then they really, they move on quickly. So, but again, they want to gain your trust. They may say that they love you a little too soon. And then they're working on that process of gaining fully your attention and your trust. It may take a few days or weeks or months until they come up with an investment opportunity. So you need to look out at red flags, such as the relationship moves on too fast, they want to move in with you really, really soon. And then they bring in money into discussion. They're going to present you pictures of their luxurious life, their luxurious vehicles and homes and vacation plans. So the all looks too good to be true scenario applies here.
And we have a fairly significant senior population in the Lethbridge area. Are seniors at a higher risk of scams, and what age groups are more susceptible?
Well, all age groups, unfortunately, can be a target of a scam. To say that only seniors, that's simply not true. As we've discussed employment scams just earlier, that really targets those aged 18 to 44. So, but what we are commonly seeing for seniors is the grandparent scam and bank imposter scam.
And then on the flip side of risks for seniors is the risk to our youth. Apparently scammers are targeting younger people as well. What does the younger generation need to be looking out for?
So younger generation, often we hear that they think they can be smarter than the scammers. They can outsmart the scammers. So we say information is power. That's a dangerous notion to play around, to say that we can outsmart the scammers. So information is power, education is crucial. We at the Better Business Bureau, we offer free presentations, free workshops for everyone in our serving area, including the youth. And Fraud Prevention Month, March is Fraud Prevention Month. The Better Business Bureau, we partnered up with other fraud prevention partners to educate and to spread the awareness and the fraud prevention tips to help everyone to prevent them from falling a victim to a scam.
And now we have a federal election just around the corner. Are election scams a thing, like where parties or people pretending to be from a certain political party are asking for donations?
That can happen, absolutely. We are seeing some of the charity scams as well, some of the donations. Anyone can pretend to be anyone. So we need to be on the lookout. And the best thing to do really in any scenario is do your research all the time. Use the internet, come on bbb.org, see what information we have on the individual, on a company to make an informed decision.
Online purchases continue to be a risk. How are people getting caught online, and what are the no-nos to watch out for?
So if you are planning to purchase online, just make sure that, again, then you are looking up that company. Is the company legitimate? Is the website secure? Look for the HTTPS in the URL. And then view the products that company is selling. Do a Google reverse image search. Make sure that the website that product doesn't come up in any other websites. If they do, then potentially it could be a stock picture so that the products don't even exist. And if you can plan on using credit cards, if there's any issues with it down the road, then you can dispute with your financial institution. And again, do your research on the company, on the products, read reviews, ask for references.
And advance fee loans is another common scam. How does this typically get presented?
Well, that would be, it's targeting those who are already in a financial need. So if you are looking for a loan from a traditional bank and for whatever reason that is not accessible to you, then you have the option to look for alternative options, and you're looking at loan companies. And so when the loan company comes to you and says, we are offering you this loan, quick offer, we guaranteed, we are don't even doing a credit check, we are just giving you this money. However, we need money to be paid up front for the loan to be released. So that is the advance fee loan. So they are asking money from you before they give you the money. That's illegal, and that's the risk, and that's the scam. So loan companies, legitimate and trustworthy loan companies, will never ask you to pay money up front.
Now, Tax scams have been going around for a while. What is it about them that try to convince people that these people are actually with Canada Revenue Agency?
Yeah, so the tax type of scam, the CRA type of scam, we call them the authority scam. What they do especially during the tax season, is they're gonna call us or text messages, and they'll say they're representing the government, and then they immediately say that there's, they're using the threat or the reward, the stick or the carrot. So they're gonna say there's some issues, you haven't filed your taxes, you owe money to the government. If you're not paying it immediately, you're in big trouble. They're going to put you in jail. So really, we always have to verify any of this kind of information directly with the government. Never trust our caller ID. Never trust somebody who's threatening us over the phone. And governments will never engage with us in a phone conversation to threaten us to pay the money that we owe them. And if not, then they're going to put us in jail.
So because the scam has been going on for a while, is it still a very common one, or have people already caught on that this is not legitimate? I think the big red flag is when you have to pay your taxes with Walmart or Amazon gift cards.
Exactly. Unfortunately, this is still continuing to occur, and we help those who are new to Canada, new Canadians, to understand that that's not how things work. That's not how a government operates. And that, as you said, governments will never ask us to pay if we owe anything to them, will never ask us to pay via gift cards, via Amazon or iTunes cards. It always has to go through the bank, through a means of transaction that can be traceable.
Any final reminders for our viewers on how to sniff out a scam? And tell us about how the BBB website can be of help as well.
Yeah, so definitely I will just end up saying that a healthy skepticism is always good. It comes handy. So don't believe everything that you see or read. The too good to be true. If something is too good to be true, it probably is. This is an old tip in the books, but it still applies. And then always be careful and cautious whenever you are sensing that the urgency. When there is a sense of urgency, someone is pressuring you to do something, to act quickly, that's always a red flag. And yes, please visit our website, bbb.org. We have many free services for consumers. You can visit our scam tracker that can be found on bbb.org/scam tracker. And you can view our most recent scam tracker risk report also on our website.
Odetta Durofte is the Manager of Community Outreach and Education with the Alberta and East Kootenay branch of the Better Business Bureau. Odetta, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Naveen Day. On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, thanks for watching.